So we're here outside the HSBC AGM with Nicholas Wilson, Mr. Ethical. Nick, what just happened inside the AGM here?
Well, as you know, for the last 4 years Douglas Flint has denied any liability for this massive consumer fraud which I'm campaigning about. And in January this year, HSBC actually agreed to voluntarily repay £4 million. So I asked Douglas Flint, although I pointed out to him that I have evidence now which shows that the true figure added in the legal charges was more like £200 million. In response to that, he tried to mock me by saying that previously I claimed it was £1 billion. Well, in the whole period of the charge of the illegal charges, it would have been £1 billion. HSBC bought the bank HFC in 2003, and the total charges were applied way back into the 1970s. So HSBC is still liable, but of course I don't expect anybody to go back to 1970. But he tried to mock me, and once again he dismissed the allegation. But I made the point to him that it's quite possible that he's been protected by the amount of lords that Cameron has appointed from HSBC. There's Lord Evans, there's Lord Rose, there's Lord Janvrin, there's Lord Green, and also it's worth pointing out that the current chairman of the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority, John Griffith-Jones, was the chair of KPMG, which were HSBC's accountants. So why didn't they notice when they signed off on HSBC's accounts that there was a huge hole for legal costs?
So Nick, you're standing to be an MP in the constituency of Hastings and Rye, currently occupied by the Home Secretary Amber Rudd. Tell us about why you're standing for Parliament and what you're going to do about corrupt banks like HSBC if you're elected to Parliament.
Well, I'm standing against Amber Rudd because to me, I'm an anti-corruption campaigner, and to me she represents the pinnacle of corruption. She has been involved in companies with the offshore accounts. Her business background as a banker as well at JP Morgan is very dubious to say the least. So, and also with the election expenses, I have tried strenuously to find. She organised for a high-speed javelin train to come to Hastings because she was trying to promote a high-speed link with London. But it was during the election period, and she put her election leaflets on the seats, and I cannot find out who paid for it. Nobody will tell me. So I want to expose her corruption. I want to get into Parliament so that MPs like that cannot get away with it. I will be able to ask questions in Parliament under parliamentary privilege, and I will be able to put MPs on the spot.
Fantastic.
Left or right.
So tell us about the political links between HSBC, David Cameron, George Osborne and Rona Fairhead.
Well, I won't go into my knowledge of that, but I'll talk about when HSBC were under investigation by the Department of Justice in the States for the money laundering for Mexican drug cartels and Hezbollah and various terrorist organisations. George Osborne and David Cameron both lobbied with the Department of Justice in the States not to prosecute HSBC, and they agreed not to, and they ended up doing a deferred prosecution agreement. But at that time, the head of risk in the States for HSBC was Rona Fairhead. Now I've been exposing David Cameron's cover-up of this fraud that I'm campaigning about for many years, and it came to a head in 2014 when I gave a lecture at the Ethical Society, and then immediately after that David Cameron appointed Rona Fairhead to head the BBC. And as far as I'm concerned, the appointment was unlawful because they didn't do it according to the proper procedures. It was a shoe-in to keep the BBC quiet about HSBC.
And was Sajid Javid involved in this process?
Sajid Javid was the Secretary of State for the Department of Culture, Media and Sport. And if you look on my website, there's a memo from the department to him asking basically, can we bend the rules for this appointment? Because everybody knew what was going on, and if you look at my website, you will see how in fact, when I did a Freedom of Information Act request to Javid's department, the first response I got was a lie.
Incredible.
And then they corrected it. but by correcting it, it showed that they haven't complied with the proper procedures to avoid both things.
And why do you think HSBC is not being prosecuted, is not being investigated by regulators in this country?
As I say, they've stuffed the Lords with members of staff. The FCA chairman was their regulator, was their auditor. They've got their finger in all pies. Lord Evans, who's a non-executive director of HSBC, is also director of a company called Art Data Centres,
Right.
who have a contract with the government, with the cabinet department. They have the contract to control all of the government data services. So MI5, MI6, GCHQ. That man will know everything about every single person in this country.
Extraordinary.
Nobody's going to prosecute HSBC.
And how much in the form of donations have HSBC made to conservative causes that you're aware of?
Well, I know that you're investigating that. I mean, you know more about that than I do, but there's this loan they made to Michael Spencer's company.
Simon Robertson?
Simon Robertson is a vice chair of HSBC, and interestingly, Bilderberg is registered at his office address in Mayfair. Yes, he's made personal donations to George Osborne of £50,000 at the time. I think the total is £200,000 to George Osborne.
And Robertson's a former European president of Goldman Sachs, I believe.
Yes, well, that's the revolving door. One thing that I would like to do if I was elected to Parliament is to bring in legislation to abolish the revolving door, so that it would be unlawful for, say, 10 years either side of somebody going from private to public sectors.
So Nicholas, how can viewers support your campaign and your run to become an MP in Hastings?
Well, the left could stop attacking me for a start, because I'm not a career politician. I didn't study PP at Oxbridge. This is a new campaign for me. I've always voted Labour all my life. I have had no support from Labour in my fraud campaign. The time has come now for me to stand, and people can support me by supporting me. In Hastings, I'm already getting a lot of hostility, and I haven't even paid my deposit yet.
And how do we find your website?
My website is nicholaswilson.com, or if you just Google Mr. Ethical. I should explain, I'm called Mr. Ethical. I was called that by my previous bosses because I refused to defraud debtors, so they just jokingly called me Mr. Ethical.
Great story. Best of luck for the campaign.
Thanks very much, John.
Thanks, Nick.